Yucky ride line. Yuck, 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 yuck. Look at this. This is a Joewell. And do you see, can you see that ride line? How wide it is here, that tip, and there's no ride line here, and it's a lefty shear. How do I fix it? Watch. I just got off the phone with an 80-year-old sharpener. He's been sharpening a couple of years, and he's having problems with shears where he wipes out the tip. And he was asking me, you know, he says he has a problem with arthritis, and he was, you know, asking me for some suggestions. And I told him I would shoot this video and we'll compare our arthritis. So there we go. And I can guarantee you, your hands are stronger than mine. There's not many people in this world that have as weak a hands as I've got. I can't open a bottle of Coke or water or whatever. I have to get somebody come open this for me. Usually it's my little 6-year-old grandchild. But I have super weak hands. Always have. Always have. No strength in them at all. And now with all these knobs and arthritis. So I'm going to show you how I can actually get this ride line. Now this shear that I showed you, there's a couple of problems going on. Much more than what my 80-year-old friend is dealing with. Number one, it's a lefty, so it means I have to hold it in the opposite hand. So that's going to even be more difficult. And number two, it's not just a wiped out tip. It's wiped out before it gets to the tip, which tells me that blade is out of alignment. It's kind of kitty yampus. That's a whole nother video on how to fix that alignment. But it's been my experience that Joewell's, Joewell is made in different factories. I don't know the whole, you know, detail of them, but it's like Joewell's are the ones that are most likely to break if I were to hammer them or bend them. It's just been over my 30 years experience. And so I don't want to bend it, don't want to hammer it, but I want to get this to work. And I can do this in the way I address the ride line. So if you're new to my channel and you are a sharpener, or you think you may want to be a sharpener, or this is just kind of interesting to you, which it is to me, I never thought I would be a sharpener, stay tuned, watch my other videos, subscribe, and I think you'll enjoy this journey that we're on together in learning how to make a hair cutting shear, whether it's for stylists or groomers, cut better. So let's see how this cuts to begin with. Now I'm bringing out my secret testing paper, which is single ply Dollar Tree toilet paper. You don't want to get the good stuff. And let's see if this even cuts dry. So it's a left-handed shear. It's in my right hand, so I know I'm not putting side pressure on it. So I'm just going to cut with my right hand. And it actually cuts. Surprisingly enough. Let's see if it cuts wet. It's good to see what you start out with. So I give it about 3 squirts. And right hand, left-handed shears in my right hand. And I'm pulling my, do you see how I'm pulling my thumb out? I'm going to pull my thumb out. And I'm coming at an angle just because that part of my tissue is wet. This is probably the better way to cut, but that didn't get wet down there, so it really doesn't matter. But I want to close this slow. Slow catches things that fast doesn't catch. And you see, it cuts the back, and here it doesn't cut. And where it stops cutting is exactly where we see our problem is on the shear. So we know we've got to fix this. So let's get started. So here's our Joewell. And this blade doesn't look too bad, but if you look at it, you see whoever sharpened it last, it's been sharpened once at least. When they got here, they didn't follow along that edge. They kind of angled it down, took too much off at the tip. I think you can see this if I turn it. If I turn it this way, yeah, you can see that. So you can see how it's the tip, it's gone. The other side is the same thing. If anything, it's a little bit worse. Can you see how there's that the blade angles down here and then it's an abrupt upward. And so that's kind of, it could actually be the sharpening that's put the out of alignment issue. And if you look at this ride line, that's telling me that blade is out of alignment. Now, you see that? Is that ugly? But I think we can make it cut without bending or hammering or doing that. Let me explain something else to you about doing these ride lines. Let's pretend this is a blade. And it's like way out of shape. See, I want it to lay flat, but I can't get it to lay flat. If it's way off, the only way I can fix it really is to bend it or hammer it or something to get it back. But if it's just a little bit off, can you see a little bit of shadow here? We're pretending like this is a blade, it's just a little bit off. I could, in theory, take off extra metal here, so that it will flatten out. I haven't really changed the shape of it, but I've taken off extra here, extra there to get it flat. It may not be pretty, but it will work. So that's the theory that I'm going to be working from to fix these, because I don't want to do any bending, and especially not at the tip, because I would have to bend it at this point, and that's such a narrow area that it's going to be more likely to pop off and snap rather than bend. So let's take these apart. And as I said, these are lefty shears. See, they cross left to right, so that makes it a little bit more difficult, which might have been, you know, perhaps the sharpener had a clamp he used or she used for right-handed shears and didn't have a left-handed clamp. Of course, the one on our machine will do lefties and righties. But maybe they had to freehand the left-handed shear, and that's why they messed these up. I don't know what the story is. I don't always ask. But in taking these apart, I do want to show you what I'm talking about, what the ride line is. So when I talk about the ride line, what I'm talking about is the shiny line that starts at the tip, it comes down and it makes a backwards J. Now if I turn it back and forth in the light, you can see it's got a distinct ride here. Up at the tip is what we call a wiped out tip. You see it's all the way across the tip, and it's really non-existent right there. And I'm not seeing shine up the back. Let's see what the other blade looks like. I haven't even wiped these off. Probably should have first. Turn it back and forth like this, and you see there's really no ride to speak of here, and then this is going up both sides, and that's just wrong. So let's see if we can just fix this by working the ride line in a correct manner. Now this is a 2000 grit Waterstone, and I'm going to spray it down with water. I'm going to clean it up with my Megowan stone. This stone may be about ready to be flattened. You should always flatten and dress your stones on a regular basis. It depends on the stone how often you need to do it, but I'm kind of liking that little sharpening mud I'm getting there. I want plenty of water, and I'm going to clean off my blades with alcohol. Always be sure you double check and make sure you got your little washer out of there, because you'll lose it and wish you had done that double check earlier. So I'll take my Sharpie, color in my edge, and normally I'm working the rod line from this side, but these are lefties, so I'm going to hold them in my left hand. My pressure is here, and you see I have my arthritis, so I'm pressing as hard as I can, but that may not feel that hard to you. But I'm doing, I think I measured about 10 pounds of pressure. Holding this blade where I can move it and manipulate it up and down, but making sure I'm not rolling it. So pressure here, light up there. what, about 8 strokes. I think this might be easier than I think. Now, do you see in here, I've got a ride coming all the way down, and it's wimpy right there. You see how wimpy that is there, but I've got a ride up there? Let's see what happens to the other blade, as I'm going to show you how I'm going to fix this. And even though they look like they were out of alignment, this is how I go after them first. So we got different problems on both of them. So on this one, I've got a rod. You can see what I'm looking at is in front of the red marker. So I have a rod there, but when I get to the tip, I don't have it. So we have an opposite problem. On this one, the rod showed up at the tip, but not here at that section. This is more common. This style is less common. So, but this is good. You're going to see the 2 ways I will address these. So for this one, which is the more common problem, where you're not getting the ride here, I'm going to pull my stone down so you can see exactly what I'm doing. I'm up in the corner. Of course, this is a lefty, so I'm on this corner. That part is hanging off. See, that part's hanging off. I've got this all the way up to the hilt, on that stone. And it's a little scrub. How hard am I pressing? How do I explain? Pretty hard. I mean, I told you I have weak hands, but I'm pressing pretty hard. But I'm scrubbing here with that tip hanging off. And what that's doing, it's taking off extra metal here, so it's bringing that down. Just the same thing as I was talking about here. If I was going to try to straighten this out, which of course I wouldn't want to that way, but I would take off more here to bring that section down. So let's see what it looks like. Can you see I've got a little bit of a ride line, but it's wimpy. I may want more than that because I don't want to have it disappear after I'm sharpening. So I'm going to do a little bit more. I could use something, this is a 2000 grit. I could use a 1000 grit. I would hesitate using anything coarser than that, although I have, and you've probably seen me on some of the videos. But the 2000 grit is my go-to. See, that's a little bit wider now. See? Now this one, the problem was the tip. So I actually am going to use a little bit lighter pressure here than I normally would. Just a little bit lighter. Because by being lighter, I'm not pressing out the bow in it as much. And that got some of it. I'm going to do a little bit more. And then I could put a finger here. Most of the pressure there because I've got to have it flat, but I could put a finger there just to make sure I'm making contact. And that's wimpy, but it's there. And then I would sharpen them. So that's how I create a ride line when I have, really it's a shear that's out of alignment, but I don't want to bend it and I want to make it work. So I hope that was helpful to you. That's a little trick working on the corner of the stone. I'm sure other sharpeners do because it's nothing new under the sun. But I remember when I was trained at the R.E.S. Eichert factory by Casper, and I showed him that I did that. And he didn't really say it was the best practice, and because he wanted me to bend the shears, which is that's the correct way to do it. But if you don't have the luxury of being able to replace the shears, you know, if they break, the way I did it works. And what I thought was interesting was that I got a good ride line without that stripping across. So it makes me think the last sharpener probably had the pressure in the wrong place or didn't know what they were doing. or maybe you didn't even take the shears apart to work the ride line. So I think these are going to come out fine. I'll show you the final results. Let me finish them up. So I'm back after sharpening, and let's see how they cut. Moment of truth. I haven't tested them yet. About 3 squirts. I'm holding them in my right hand even though they're lefty shears because I don't want any side pressure on them. So I'm pulling my thumb out. Light, gentle pressure. Oh, look at that. Cut all the way down. Now, are they still ugly? Would another sharpener go behind me and look at this ride line? Because it was all, I didn't fix anything that was there. I just made them cut. Say, man, what did Bonnie do to it? Yeah, I mean, it still looks pretty ugly in here. You see that? But they cut. They're smooth. Probably do them a little bit tighter. And customer will be happy with them. You'll be happy too if you try these techniques.